From the Spacebird Media Studios, it's Roxanne and Ace Unlimited.
Welcome to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited, where we are praying for you that you're going to have unlimited health, unlimited love, unlimited joy, unlimited prosperity. Why not? We're believing it. You know, ask and you will receive. Hi, my friend Ace. How are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to be back this week. Of course, thanks to My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group. We got Josh Wyatt a little bit later in the show, but I know you and I could not even get 10 minutes into the announcement when it came out last week of the possibility of season 4 of Ted Lasso. Is this really happening?
I sent it to you immediately when I found out. Usually you scoop me on everything. I was like, I'm going to get him with this. And it's not totally final, but they have many of the mains on board. And if you can get everybody together, they can do it. That show. Oh, I love the character of Roy. He has a potty mouth. He's so hilarious. It has lightness and humor and life and love and humor and life lessons. And it's just so good.
It's the show we didn't know we needed. But the thing that I love is if you strip away some of the vulgarity, the underlining heart of Ted and how he affects that team through the first 3 seasons. And even if it ends up being called something else, but it's some semblance, as long as the writing is there, the characters we already love are there, it is that evolution of grown-ups, you know, getting over themselves and getting past their successes or failures or, you know, relationships that did or didn't happen, and then learning to just love the people around you. And and especially when you go from season 1 to season 3, I mean, some really hard, tight, just people, and then how their hearts break down because of one single person. That's why I always love, if you've seen the intro, when Ted's sitting in the stands and all the chairs start to change colors because of where he's sitting. And that's symbolic of the impact that he had one at a time. He, you know, and I still to this day, it's amazing the Ted-isms that I spout out. So the whole, you know, barbecue sauce, or, you know, it's better to be a goldfish because, you know, you got a short-term memory. Or my actual favorite one is well, it's actually not Ted Lasso, but I learned it from Ted. It's Mark Twain, but it's be curious, not judgmental. Took me a second. But I need it on my wall, so it's staring me in the face. But it's so true, because no matter where you are in your life, no matter where you are in your relationship with God, it doesn't matter. If we could just be more curious about people's hearts and their circumstances, rather than just going, well, you know, that's just the way they are, it would remove so much of the that's in this world.
And Hannah Waddington, the beautiful blonde British lady who plays Rebecca, the soccer team owner, is amazing. And since Ted is now in the States, though, they would need to incorporate her. And I'm not sure how they do it. She would never leave where she is, but we're curious about those characters and excited that it looks like season 4 is a possibility. The thing that super excited me that I also had to share with you is the face of Jesus. I've always believed that the Shroud of Turin is the burial cloth of Jesus. It gives me chills thinking about it. I would love to see it someday. An X-ray back in the 80s said, no, it couldn't have been from Jesus' time, but everything tested since then has said, yes, this cloth is from Jesus' time. So remember, we're in the world of AI. AI took a look at the cloth. Oh, I wish you could see it, but you can. Go to New York Post, type in AI, face of Jesus, and you can see what they came up with, what AI produced from the cloth that they believe Jesus looked like. And I just had to hold my breath. Oh my goodness, you just see kindness in his eyes, and we don't know if that looks anything like Jesus. We're not meant to know what Jesus looks like.
Sure.
But the fact that they've generated this, it's amazing.
It's pretty cool. It's funny when I told my wife that hey, they used AI to, figure out the face of Jesus from the shroud. She's like, "What is he, a white guy?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Okay, good. At least there's a chance that it's somewhat accurate." But I think that's the thing is because last week I got into a discussion with a friend of mine about heaven and like what's it going to be like. Like there's no, the Bible even says there's no way for us to comprehend what it's going to be like. Like we can read passages and it's obviously left for interpretation like a lot of the Bible. But think about the first time that you make eye contact with Christ himself and no AI model, no painting of those that have had near-death experiences, nothing is going to prepare us for not only the beauty of what his face is representing to us and who he is to us, but the first time to just, I know I'm going to be an emotional wreck. I'll be like, oh, Jesus. Oh, my goodness, he's right there. And even if the line is longer than Disneyland, I am standing in whatever line until we get, because it's eternity. Where have I got to go, right? I made it. So just get me in my place and I'll get to know the people that are standing around me. Hopefully people I already know, but it won't matter. It's like, hey, look at us. We're here. But it's kind of exciting. Yeah, it's exciting to think about. And this is, a good use of AI. It is one of my favorite things that I've seen them use it for. So it's kind of cool.
It is really cool. Did you know that we can trust God with our fears? Sometimes I would have guilt. If I feared something, I would say, well, if I had enough faith, then I wouldn't be feeling this. And there's a verse that I hope it's a big comfort to you, like it is to me. Psalm 56:3 says, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you. And I love that verse because when I am afraid is there. We're told not to have fear, fears from the enemy, but that is a recognition that we will be afraid.
Yeah.
And I think we have to remember that Christ experienced being fully man and fully God. He experienced what we go through.
Yeah.
And it stands out to me and it encourages me. We can cry out to him and say, I am afraid, and the Father understands our tears.
Yeah. Well, my priest says it all the time. He goes, Christ is on the other side of anxiety. So you have to walk through it, whatever fears, whether you've manifested themselves or they are legitimate fears, like falling off a cliff or, running out of money or whatever. We have to walk through it because it allows us to see God strengthening us to go through those so that we don't have to go, well, I wish I didn't have to deal with this. We go, Lord, thank you for what you're walking me through, because once I get to the other side, not only do I feel your presence down the hallway, but then there you are waiting. Go, see, you made it to the other side. You're better. You're stronger. It wasn't as bad as you thought. That's my thing is I tend to overthink it. And I think we're all guilty of this. Well, this is what's going to happen, and then this is going to do this, and then none of it actually happens that way. And we're like, why did I lose 12 hours of sleep for 4 days? And it just was fine. And that's the thing, is to know that God is on the other side of it. Just walk through and then be thankful for the lessons we get through it.
Well, one thing you and I are thankful for is certainly the expertise of Turan Newell. I wouldn't be in my house without him. We had a really complicated situation, and he worked through it. And new construction, you can actually get, he can help you with that, to get in a first home or your second or third home, and do that with the best mortgage rate possible. It's Birmingham Mortgage Group.
Yeah, this is the time to go ahead and get pre-approved, so that way you know what you can build, you know what you can maybe add on to your home existing or whatever it might be. But in those complicated situations, he knows the programs to work for you and your budget. So find out what you can be pre-approved on now when you call him 205-259-1656 or go to bhammortgage.com.
Something to watch out for is called the busy brag. Yeah, when we're at work, we're like, oh, I'm swamped. I'm so stressed. I have so much to do. And we do that because we want to feel important and we want others to have empathy for us. Yeah. But it's stress bragging. Ultimately, the experts say it does not make you more popular in the office. People don't like it. And, so we gotta watch that. The stress brag. We know you're busy. Everybody's pretty busy. But when you ask people, how are you? And it's like, I'm so busy. Have
That's
you had that
that's not
happen where
something
you
to
ask
brag
somebody?
about. Yeah. Because I know busy, and I don't want to brag. Like, that is not something I brag about. If anything, it's more of like, it's the thing that's keeping me from the things I want to do, or finding that balance. Because I don't know if you've ever worked with someone who's what I call a one-upper. Like, you tell your story, and then like,
Oh, yeah.
well, 6 years ago, you're not going to believe and then they tell their story, and you don't want to be a jerk and go, okay, I mean, it's you listen to their story, right? But again, we do
Mhm.
that. We feel like if we don't have a story to relate to the situation, like it's okay for others to have had an experience and go, man, that is amazing. I'm so glad you had that, or that happened for you, and just be happy for them. Shut it. Just don't even.
And learn the word no. It took me, don't do this. It took me till so late in life that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Yeah.
Because I was overwhelmed. I was too busy. And it's because I wanted to please everybody. And I would say, sure, I'll do that. And then before I knew it, I was in every club. I was doing every project. I was working on 4 different charities. And you don't bring your best to a situation when you're overwhelmed and exhausted. And this is especially moms of young children. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's only so much energy when you're working and you've got kids that you can do, and you don't have to feel guilt. I learned that no is a complete sentence.
No, yeah, absolutely. And it has an exclamation point on it. The thing, too, that I will say, especially now being in a place where I have adult kids living their lives, and then I have teens still at home, the kids are watching us, right? They're watching our busyness. They're watching and hearing our mouths, and they cling on to things better than we do, because we get older, we forget. Like, I'm glad I don't have to keep up with phone numbers anymore, because I'm getting to that age where I can't remember what I ate for lunch, let alone anything else. But kids pay attention to that stuff, and my girls love to remind me, Dad, do you remember when? Yeah, and you just kind of bury your head. But they learn from our mistakes when we're transparent with them, whether it's something directly related to them or something else that then we're verbalizing. Yeah, I really messed up at work, bada bada bada, and they go, okay, note to self, don't do that when I get a job.
Ooh, that's really good. Yeah. They're sponges. They're watching us.
Yep.
And we can tell them things all day, but when they see us doing something, it's entirely different. And so
Agreed.
that's a great reminder. Let's talk about living in love, shall we? Here's a little story about a husband and a wife. They were so upset after a big argument, they refused to speak to each other. That night, not wanting to be the first to break the silence, the husband left a note on his wife's side of the bed: wake me up at 6 o'clock. Well, he woke up at 8. He was hot mad. I mean, he was upset. And he finally found her note she had put on his side of the bed that said, it's 6 o'clock, wake up. And so tit for tat, kind of, yeah, you want to talk to me in a note, I'm going to talk to you in a note. Here's the thing. Ephesians 3:17 says that we've got to be rooted and established in love so that we have the power together with all the saints. And that thing, they tell you when you're newlywed, never go to bed angry. Well, there's a lot of truth. When you're leaving silent notes and turning your backs on each other and acting like 2-year-olds, there's a lot to the fact that you just got to give grace,
Yeah.
forgiveness.
Well, my wife knows this about me. She knows that I am a verbal processor. So if we've gotten into any kind of a tiff, she knows that I have to process it in my head. Like, what was my mistakes? Am I mad at you, or am I mad at a situation, or both? And then I have to verbalize it with her. Here's why I said what I said. Here's why I did what I did. Here's where my head was. And then if there's something I need to own, I want to own it, because again, I want to go to bed. I can't. It's not a matter of don't go to bed angry. I can't go to bed angry, because I'm so worked up into the emotion of it, and then I'm picking it apart. And now been married long enough, my wife and I know that about each other, and so we try to get, okay, hey, what caused this? Well, now there might be the occasional temper on either or both sides, but I don't want to match it if she's mad at me and I was wrong, because then all I'm doing is screaming, still wrong, right? And so it's like, okay, that's why I'm like trying to process quickly. Okay, what did I say? What did I do? Where was I thinking? Okay, where was she thinking? What did, and expectations or unmet expectations oftentimes is what leads to that stuff. But man, it's exhausting if you let it.
Yeah, I have never been, I can't remember you and I ever fussing at each other. And we've known each other a really long time.
Not probably since we've done the show together. We fussed a lot before we were on partnership.
Oh, yeah, that's pre.
Yeah.
That's pre before God gave me my marching orders and said, that's your new radio partner. Yeah. But the harmony's there. But, when you live with somebody, you see their junk. I was reading in one of my magazines about a wife who, and I've done this, but it was the first go round, who put trash in the middle. I've done this. Who put trash in the middle of the living room floor to see if their husband would even see it.
Right.
And they don't. They, not Wayne, but they walk over it or around it, waiting for wifey, who also works full time, to pick it up.
Yeah.
And so that's where little things fester, I don't want to be the person that festers. I'm mad at this, so I remember it. We women have long memories, and it tends to be like this bank, and it adds up. I don't want to be that person. Now, if there was something on the floor, I'd just pick it up and not worry about it too much. It doesn't matter. After 2 cancers that he survived,
amen. Yeah.
I will clean up whatever's there.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, we can just get a Roxanne cup of coffee and know that we can chill, because that's, if all else fails, don't leave a Post-it note. Take your sweetie a cup of Roxanne coffee and go, I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
Yeah. That's a really good idea. I love it when my coffee's brought to me, especially if it's the Roxanne blend. It has I love pecans, and it has a little bit of butterscotch, which sounds kind of weird, but it tastes so good. It smells like happiness. It sends missionaries around the world to proclaim the gospel of Jesus. They've gone dangerous places like Burma, and people get saved right and left. Go to mybrotherscup.com, click on the Roxanne blend. You'll be happy that you did. Well, something that I've been reading a lot about, the power of our words, and the power of words said out loud. And Joel Osteen talks about his mother, Dodie, how she had liver cancer and was down to 89 pounds. And they said, she's going to be gone about a month or two. She's gone. Forget it. What she did is she took scriptures and she read them out loud. And she just leaned into God's word. And she had scriptures posted, speaking of those Post-it notes, all over the house. I am the head and not the tail. I am more than a conqueror through him who loves me. By his stripes I am healed. And she was healed. And we ran into on the streets this week a man whose lymphoma has returned. And he's terrified. He saw us coming down the street out the window, and he was right out there. Pray for me. The spots of this cancer have come. And we just told him, you've got to go to Romans 8:11. You've got to say it out loud. Let's anoint the doors with oil, and let's believe that we have received his healing. What do you think about saying the scriptures out loud, Ace?
No, absolutely. Matter of fact, we started doing something on Sundays. Every other Sunday when we're not doing communion, we have a morning prayer service. So at the end of towards the end of the service, before the final worship song, it's a time of healing prayer. So if it's either you yourself or someone that you're coming, in on behalf of, and the thing I love is that all it takes is for you to just say, this is a time of meditative. You can either sit where you're at or you can come down if you want. And even the people, especially the ones I think that are slow to move because physically they are having some kind of issues from age or an accident they had, they're still quick to come down the aisle as fast as their little bodies will let them, because the hand of Jesus is not a miracle to intellectualize into something that it's not. If God touches, Wayne is prime example of that, of God's healing hand. And yes, you can say, well, it was modern medicine or it was chemo or it was, you can say what you want, but God also made those things too. You know, if we just want to
Amen.
go that it's science or it's medicine, or fine, you know, but at the same time, I've seen him do things with my mom and a lot of her illnesses that would there is no way, especially after months or years of doctors going, we don't know what's wrong, and they just keep bouncing her from medication to medication. Then finally she says, I'm going to stop them all. And then suddenly she has energy, or suddenly she sleeps better, or suddenly anxiety is down, or whatever. We have to get out of the mindset of intellectualizing God's miracles and just go, wow, look at him work.
I love that. And we've got to believe. You know,
Amen.
people think it's an old book with old miracles. God doesn't do miracles today. And I'm just going to say, I have physically seen him heal someone in this day and age.
Yeah.
And after that, you know, if I'm praying and I pray with a lot of doubt, that's my issue because I've witnessed it.
Yeah.
And he is glorious. And everybody who came to Jesus was healed.
Amen.
Why not? You know, sometimes he uses doctors and sometimes he uses medicine. That's okay. And sometimes he heals right on the spot. And sometimes he doesn't heal until heaven.
Amen.
We don't know, but we've got to trust. We've got to trust him. Absolutely, first and foremost. So this story wrecks me. It's so sweet. So an Uber Eats driver was delivering Chipotle in order. And it was a guy, the driver, took on an extra job so that he could have the most beautiful wedding for his bride. So when he was delivering his food, he put a little note in there that said, thank you. Your tip is going toward my dream wedding for my beautiful bride. I appreciate you, you know, little blessings, hearts that he put in with this meal. Well, it got to one young lady and she loved it so much. She posted it on TikTok. It exploded.
Wow.
He had more than enough money for the wedding, and he gave her $1,000 and flew her to the wedding.
That's so cool.
How's that?
That's the generosity.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing to be reminded of, you know, whether, you know, we think that times are so tight or, you know, people don't give anymore. They give to the causes that they latch onto. So, you know, that's the thing is, and this might seem like not such a big deal, but the cost of most weddings. I mean, there's even, you know, stories this week about people leaning on Chat GPT to create their wedding plans because they can't afford a wedding planner. They want to be able to put it into the service, the ceremony, or into their honeymoon, or just to have money set aside because we're going to have bills when it's the two of us, you know. So, you know, give to the things you care about and people notice, you know, and that love is something that can be very contagious.
Yeah. He was like, I never imagined a little card that a lady would do that. He said, what would prompt her to ask, you know, can you give? If it's $5, if it's $10, can we help this guy have his wedding?
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful. I love knowing that there's generosity in the world, that we still want to take care of each other. It's awesome.
We're Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. Always great when we get a chance to catch up with our friends, but also those that inspire us in our faith. And I know he's been on the show before, but even in the midst of being a new dad, having, you know, ankle biters now, it's one of those when he takes the extra time is always extra, extra cool. So Pastor Josh Wyatt joins us to talk about his new book, The Flip Side. How are you, bud?
Doing great. Being busy, being slammed. Love it. I'm honored to be here with you guys. We love you guys. We go back. We go way back.
We go way back. And,
Oh, yeah.
and thank you for signing the book, The Flip Side, Staying Balanced in an Unbalanced World. The world is crazy. It's just crazy. And we're trying to keep up with it. And there's so many things to talk about in this great book. But dude, you got raw.
Yeah.
You just laid being overweight, having anxiety, having depression, having infertility. What did you, I mean, you just decided to be kind of raw in this book.
Yeah. Well, being fake never helped anybody. Being fake never ministered to anybody either. It just doesn't. And in reality, I found out that there were a lot of taboo subjects that people weren't talking about in church, yet everybody was dealing with in church. And I didn't understand why, if the Bible has so much to say about these issues and everyone's dealing with them, then why are pastors and ministers not being the first ones to speak to these issues? And where the church is silent, the world fills in the blanks. And so we've got a whole generation of people coming up that have no clue what the word says about a variety of issues because we just don't touch them. They're just no topics. They're uncomfortable, and nothing makes me uncomfortable.
Love that.
Well, so I'm going to just ask because I'm curious, not only personally, but as now we're dads, so we have a certain lingo that we can understand. In writing this, how much of it either stemmed from fatherhood because you had a different perspective on God, or how much did you learn about yourself in writing it once the kids were born?
Yeah, well, see, now that we've got this experience myself, being a dad changes the way you look at everything. I mean, I think I even mentioned this the last time I was on with you guys. You think that you know something about God, and then you have a baby or you become a dad, and you're like, whoa, I knew nothing about Father God until now.
Yes.
And so ultimately, even going back to things that I dealt with in my teen years and earlier 20s before I was a dad, again, it goes back to nobody was talking about these issues. And you look for people. I mean, there was a place in time that I was dealing with stuff, and I was YouTubing random stuff like, what does the Bible say about this, or is anybody doing a series on this? And nobody was. So I wanted to produce material, be candid, be open about stuff that if my boys were ever dealing with, we could talk about. We could be open because we want that open flow of communication, which ultimately is what God wants to have with us too, where we can come to Him about anything. And if we can come to Him about anything, we should be able to come to each other about anything within reason, with trusted friends and family. And so that was very impactful in the shaping of what I put in the book and how I kind of released it.
Well, as somebody who has a lifelong struggle with weight, when you were just so refreshingly raw about the fact that it was hard for you to be obedient about the weight, and then God kind of got serious with you. I was like, God said, what?
Yeah.
Please talk about that.
Yeah. So it was something that I always dealt with too. And, it's one thing when doctors tell you what doctors tell you. That's cool. We love doctors. I even talk about that in the book. It's one thing when friends and family, bring things to your attention, or even when you talk to yourself. It's an entirely different thing when the Lord starts talking to you about your weight. I mean, that's a whole different ball game. Those are areas you didn't expect Him to touch, but He cares about it. He cares about us being healthy. He cares about us being able to live long and finish strong. And basically what I write in the book about what He told me was I was so unhealthy to a point it was difficult to travel, which was something that was always important to me and a part of my call. And it was on the verge of potentially one day shortening my life. And He told me, if you die due to a weight-related issue prematurely, then I'll hold you accountable for the souls that weren't saved that I had called you to save, but you couldn't because you died early. Ooh. And so, He puts a call on our life and then expects us to do everything in the natural to walk out that call. And part of those things in the natural He wants us to do is to make sure that our temple's adequately ready to walk out whatever He's called us to do. I ain't trying to buy 2 plane tickets to go to Kenya. I'm trying to just fit in one seat, not 2 or 3 seats. So it was just something that I needed to handle and needed to do, and He spoke to me about it.
Yeah. Well, last week on the show, we talked about side hustles and, having them and healthy ones and all that. I feel like everyone has some kind of side hustle, whether it's a moneymaker for them or not. But when we're trying to balance life, it is the side hustles that take us away from the main thing. How do we not shift away from the main thing?
Well, we have to live life continually conscious of what the main thing is for us. Ultimately, for everybody, it should be the kingdom. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. All these things will be added unto you. And then, of course, we've got to make our family, our spouses, the main thing. And that internal compass never has to leave us. Sometimes we can get so enamored with whatever's in front of us right now that we lose sight internally. It's really not an external thing. It's an internal. I'll never lose focus of where I'm supposed to be. Even when I'm here, I'm doing it for this purpose and for this reason. And then something that's helped me, because we are so busy, is being where my feet are. Meaning if I'm in my office having a meeting, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to eat for dinner because I'm in my office having a meeting. And if I'm at the gym, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do after the gym because I'm in the gym. Just handling what's in front of me and then going to the next thing and then going to the next thing, but not being always moving and thinking about a million different things at once. When you're here, be 100% here, be 100% present with the people that you're here. I pastors, have a 24/7 job. But when I'm home with my kids and my wife, I'm home with my kids and my wife. Something awful needs to have happened before you call my cell at 11 o'clock at night, because I'm with my family. And so there's boundaries even with that too, that you just be where you're at, keep first things first, and stay balanced in all of those things.
When you were suffering from anxiety, when you had depression, when you have that, it makes it hard to want to do anything, much less try to be balanced. I know we don't really have enough. We need more time. We do. But I do want you to touch on that. So many people really struggle with it.
Yeah, well, and that's again one of those really taboo subjects that the body of Christ is getting a little better at dealing with. There's a lot of bold preachers coming out to start teaching about it, which is awesome. And I'm honored to be one of the many. But it's still one of those, where people think if you struggle with depression or anxiety, like it's a you problem. It's a big problem that you have, or it's a spiritual deficit, or you don't have enough faith. And in reality, in the same way that your body can be sick, your mind can be sick. And in the same way that Jesus can heal your body, he can heal your mind. But in the same way that you can take medicine for your body, there can be a season where the Lord might even lead you to take medicine for your mind. And so all of that to say, there was that season of my life. At one point in 10 days, I lost 11 to 12 pounds. Didn't get out of bed once, didn't shower the whole 10 days. It was shortly after my first son was born. It was awful. My wife was like, you smell bad, you look bad, something needs to happen. Like, it's just an awful situation. And I could not bring myself to do anything to get out of bed. And there was a process through that. But, actually, as much as I believe in the power of prayer, and as much as I believe in, God's ability to break chains in our life, he did that. But one of the avenues he used was medication for a season, counseling, therapist. And I'm a pastor that comes out and is not ashamed to say that. And I think that if we'll break the taboos on some of this stuff, we'll see a lot more people get free.
Well, and Josh, speak a little bit too, especially I'm going to challenge as husbands. The thing it starts with us, right? Like, we have to set, like,
right.
Your wife calling you out of bed is one thing, but you have to say, okay, I have to set the tone for my home.
Right. Well, and we carry all of that. And so as goes, I do a lot of men's ministry, and I told our guys at our church the other day that men are the doorway into the house. And so if you feel like you're being attacked at an all-time high, it's not necessarily because the enemy's after you. Remember, he's the thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. No robber ever kicked a door in because he wanted to steal the door. No, he wanted to get to what was in the house. And so men being the doorway of the home, the enemy's got to get through you so that he can get to your spouse and your kids. And so we deal with a lot. We get kicked on, punched on, from all angles, simply because we're at the front of the house. We're the ones that determine what comes in and what doesn't. We're the ones who allow what comes into the home and what doesn't come into the home. And so it's a high responsibility. It's a high standard we have to carry, because with that being said, we determine the atmosphere of the house as leaders in the home. And so I noticed over my struggles with the things that I struggled with, when I wasn't healthy, my home wasn't healthy, my marriage wasn't healthy, my family wasn't healthy. And not to say that I'm that powerful that I just fixed it all, but when I started getting my stuff sorted out, my home was happier. It seemed like my kids were just doing better, and my wife and my marriage, we were just better, because as goes the man, as goes the family. It's the way God set it up.
Yeah.
He did. And I think people really confuse that whole concept. They think, we're completely equal and all
Right.
that's fine and good. But, I tell Wayne, you're the president and CEO.
Right.
I'm good with that.
Right.
But I can do that because he's godly. He hears from God, and he
Right.
provides the leadership and the covering that I need,
Right.
need. And
Yeah.
so there's a model for it, but everybody's got to be on board, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Men have to be men that are worth submitting to. You can't demand submission if you're not worth submitting to. And so my wife's even told me, y'all know Hope, and Hope's even told me, she's like, you're easy to submit to because you're somebody, I've seen your life. I've seen your prayer life. I've seen the way you live at home. you're easy to submit to. I know you hear from God. I know you love me. I know you'd never put our family in a bad position. So you're easy. You're worth submitting to. And if a man's not worth submitting to, he can't just go demanding submission, saying, well, the word says this. No, you got to work on yourself first.
Well, and I love
Absolutely.
I love the front of the house analogy too, because I think I heard
Right.
it was a quote this week about, the criminals don't rob the empty homes. They don't go to the houses that
Right.
have no value. They go where the good stuff is. So when the enemy's coming to your
Right.
house, it's because you got the goods. And we have to be willing to protect it and know that, okay, the reason this is coming at me is because I have value. God is trying to use me.
Right. 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 Absolutely.
I
So
love it.
good.
Well, Josh Wyatt, you are amazing. The name of the church, Victorious Life Church in Moundville, Alabama. The book is available on Amazon, right?
Yeah,
You can order
absolutely.
it. It's called The Flip Side, Staying Balanced in an Unbalanced World. It is raw and real, and it's so refreshing to have that coming from the pulpit in
Yeah.
written form where you can really digest it. I think it's amazing, and you're just getting started. Have a wonderful trip to Kenya, and you're going to be preaching in a major event coming up right after that. We're going to be praying for you, Josh. You're amazing.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your prayers. We love you guys more than you know. You know we love y'all.
Well, we can't bail before we look at this weekend's vibes heading into a 3-day weekend. Roxanne, what's your jam?
We went to the 26th annual Sidewalk Film Festival. Everybody's shocked. It's in Birmingham, Alabama. It's eclectic. It's enlightening. It is a big city feel. We go every year. We love it. We have a day pass this year. We figure we shouldn't spend all weekend watching movies, but we can give it a day. And Maya and the Big Wave is about a Brazilian big wave surfer, gorgeous woman,
Yeah.
strong woman. You see the video of her taking on one of these massive 100-foot waves, and she almost drowns. Then she messes her back up and goes through 3 surgeries. Then all the men are like, well, you're good to look at. You ought to stick to your bikinis and quit this. You're not good enough. Her coach quits her. Then Laird Hamilton, the surfer from the U.S., was like, you need to go home. You'll never make it. And lo and behold, after 3 back surgeries, everybody quitting her, everybody making fun of her, she rides the biggest wave ever recorded, man or woman. And when you see what she's gone through as a female, the Guinness Book of World Records took forever to give her credit because she's a female.
Yeah.
When you see it at the end, my mouth opened and wailing happened. It was awesome. If you ever get a chance, it needs to run on Netflix or something so everyone can see it. It's amazing.
That sounds great. Well, my jam this week is actually the new song from Lydia Laird. For those that are into contemporary Christian music, as a worship leader, I'm always looking for songs of peace or songs that kind of help you to just unload your life. And she actually has a new album out that's called The Heavy, The Healing, The Holding. And the new song is just simply called Heavy. And so it doesn't come out until October 4th, but just off this first, because I was a huge fan of the last EP, and like there wasn't a bad song on it, right? And it's just that vulnerability, that transparency of the life changes she's gone through in her life, the losses and the gains, and then how that reflects into our own lives and how we can look to God in those heavy moments. And it's just a beautiful, in her voice within itself, she could sing the phone book, and I think I'd listen to it, which the phone book is what we used to have to look up phone numbers, kids. I am that old. But it's just one of those that's fantastic. So if you get a chance, stream it wherever you like to and enjoy. But thanks for streaming us and subscribing, liking, and letting us know that you're a part of it. Have a great Labor Day weekend. And thanks again to My Brother's Cup, to Birmingham Mortgage Group, and to Josh Wyatt for being a part of the show this week. Roxanne, have a good weekend. I love you.
Love you so much.
You've been listening to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. To make sure you don't miss future shows, you can subscribe anywhere you like to podcast and catch up on anything you've missed. Find out more at RoxanneandAce.com. Roxanne and Ace Unlimited is a production of Spacebird Media.